All right, difference quotient. In order to be able to do the difference quotient, which is going to use that equation right there, you have to be good at substitution first. So we're going to go over these problems first. So basically, look, it's the same way you've always done it. You're just going to substitute values here. So like this one would look like -1 squared minus 8 times -1 plus 1. I will say though, regarding substitution, you need to use parentheses whenever you substitute things. It'll kind of help you keep your order of operations and your signs a little better. So that's a piece of advice. So this one, -1 squared is 1. This -8 times -1 is going to become a +8. And then I have the +1 at the end, which is just 10. So you've seen substitution in the past. But let's go ahead and go through these. First one's 10. The second one, I'm just going to replace every single time I see an x, I'm going to replace it with 2x. So it would look like this. I'll do it off to the side over here. You've got your 2x, then it's squared minus 8 times your 2x, and then plus 1. You're going to have to be able to do a little algebra here. 2x squared, they both get the square. Both of these, the 2 and the x, get the exponent. So this is actually 2 squared x squared, which is 4x squared. Minus distribute there, 16x plus 1. All right, now this third one is actually what you're going to be doing when you do the difference quotient. So basically, wherever you see an x, here and here, you're going to replace it with x plus h. So it would look like this. X plus h squared minus 8x plus h plus 1. Now this part you'll have to FOIL out, and this part you'll have to distribute. So let's go ahead and FOIL this part out. This is going to be x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. Then here I'm going to distribute a -8 to both these things. So minus 8x minus 8h plus 1. And then you just look for like terms. There are no like terms here. So my answer would be, and generally you want to go with like the highest exponent part first. So my answer here would be x squared plus 2xh plus h squared minus 8x minus 8h plus 1. So that's how you're going to do all of these problems. All right, so go ahead and do all those problems, and this is what you should get. And just a quick note, I see a lot of people mess up right here. They like to cancel like the x. You can't do that. This is a trinomial. And so in order to cancel it, you can only cancel it if there's a trinomial that's the exact same on the bottom. Notice this one on top has a -4 and the one on bottom has a +4. So you would just leave it like that. Okay, now difference quotient. Here's what's about to happen. Basically, you're going to, I'll use this first example. You're going to first write the problem, but instead of writing the letter x, you write parentheses x plus h. So like this. All right, so that's this first part, the f of x plus h in the equation. Just take your equation, but instead of writing this letter x, write parentheses x plus h. All right, now you're going to use a minus. That's this minus in the middle. And you need now to use a parentheses. This is super important, this parentheses right here. And basically, you'll just write f of x, whatever it is, so 3x minus 2, inside that parentheses. Let me make that a little better. Okay, that orange parentheses is where students usually get these problems wrong. And then it's all over this h on bottom. Okay, now the reason the parentheses is so important is because this minus right here, this minus, it's really like a -1, and you're going to have to distribute it, and it's going to change those signs. So I'm going to go ahead and also distribute the 3 in front. So now it would look like this. 3x plus 3h minus 2 minus 3x plus 2 all over h. All right, if you do difference quotient and things don't cancel, you've done it wrong. So like what I mean by that is you should have stuff cancel. Like this, sorry, hold on, getting ahead of myself there. Like this 3x and minus 3x cancels, this minus 2 and plus 2 cancels. And so when it's all said and done, all you have is 3h over h. Now I can cancel the h's, and my answer is just 3. Like that. So quick recap, write the problem once, but instead of writing the letter x, you write x plus h. Put a minus and a parentheses because you're going to have to distribute the minus. Write the function how it was, and then it's all over h. And then you're just going to have to do some algebra, do some distribution, do some canceling, and you'll end up at your answer. And again, if you do this and your stuff is not canceling, you've done it wrong. So let's look at a quadratic. They're a little trickier, but I would say the hardest ones by far are the rationals or the roots. These are the ones that can kind of be a nightmare. You'll see why. Okay, let me go ahead and show you an example of a quadratic. This is a very common question in my opinion, so I'd really know how to do these if I were you. The first thing you're going to write, instead of x, you're going to write x plus h for both of these x's. So it's going to look like this. X plus h squared minus 8x plus h plus 1. All right, now this is the minus parentheses that I was saying is so important last problem. Now you just write the original equation, so x squared minus 8x plus 1, like that. And then it's all over h. Okay, so now you just got to kind of clean it up a little bit. You're going to have to FOIL out this x plus h part. So it's going to look like x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. You're going to have to distribute this minus 8 part. So minus 8x minus 8h. Then I've got the plus 1. Now this minus has to be distributed to all of these things. It's going to go change all of those signs. So it looks like minus x squared plus 8x minus 1. And then it's all over h. I know. There's a lot to it. Now go ahead and look for stuff that cancels. Like I see an x squared and a minus x squared. I see a plus 1 and a minus 1. I see a minus 8x and a plus 8x. So, and that's it. So now I'm going to write the h squared part first. So I've got h squared. I've got plus 2xh. I've got minus 8h, and it's all over h. So I'm almost done. The only thing is you can go a little bit further here because all of these things have the letter H. So you can GCF an H out of the top. And so it would look like H plus 2x minus 8. And it's all over H. And then the reason you did that is because now you can cancel that H. And you'll end up with your answer, which is this right here, this h plus 2x minus 8. It doesn't matter how you write that. Some people like to write the x first. So what I mean by that is you could write it 2x plus h minus 8. You could write it 2x minus 8 plus h. It really doesn't matter. So however it looks best to you. I'm going to write it 2x plus h minus 8. Like that. All right. The last ones I want to show you are the root and the rational. So these are definitely trickier. And the only reason rationals are trickier is because students generally have a low foundation of fractions. So I'll show you what I mean by this. Let's do number 9. So again, you're just going to have to write the equation first, but instead of writing the letter x, write x plus h. So it looks like this: 12 over x plus h minus 32. Now you got a minus. This is the minus parentheses that we were talking about earlier. And I'm going to show you a little trick that I do here. So then you write the equation. So 12 over x minus 32, and then it's all over h. So a little trick that I use, I don't like this minus right here. I really don't like it. So I change it to a plus. And I distribute the minus to the numerator of the fraction after it, like that. So now I don't really have to worry about it. Okay, now here's where this one's going to get kind of difficult. Let me see if I can scoot this over actually. All right, you're going to have to get a common denominator for this top part. So the easiest way to do this is probably just to multiply by the denominator of the other one. So like this fraction is going to get multiplied by this denominator on top and on bottom. And then this fraction is going to get multiplied by this denominator on top and on bottom. And I'm going to drop the parentheses when I do this. Okay. And when I said I'm going to drop the parentheses, I was referring to these parentheses right there. So you don't really need this. Now, don't multiply the denominators out. Just leave them with parentheses, just kind of sitting there like this. But you will have to multiply the top out. So you're going to distribute a 12 here. So it's going to look like 12x minus, what is that, 384? And then you're going to distribute a negative 12 on this side. So it's going to look like minus 12x minus 12h plus 384. It's over your two common denominators. Well, it's one common denominator, but it's two polynomials here. So it's you have an x minus 32, and you had the x plus h minus 32. And then that's all over h. Okay, now comes the part where you cancel stuff. So when it's all said and done, I'm going to scoot this down a little bit, I need more room. I have a minus 12h over those two polynomials and then that is over h. And I'm going to now change h to be h over 1, because if you're good with fractions, you can realize I don't have to divide by h over 1. Instead, I can just kind of ignore that and times by its reciprocal, 1 over h, like this. And so if you do this, now you'll realize that there's going to be an h on top and bottom that cancel, and you'll end up at your answer with just a negative 12 on top and then those two polynomials on bottom. Like that. And your teacher might ask you to FOIL this bottom part out. I wouldn't ask for that. This would be an acceptable answer in my opinion. But yeah, the rational ones can kind of be tricky. So quick recap. Write it with x plus h. It's a minus in the middle, and then write it normal. Now this minus in the middle, remember I distributed it to the numerator of the second fraction, and it became a plus in the middle. You have to get a common denominator. That's this part. And then you'll have to distribute the numerators. then stuff will cancel. Then instead of writing it over h, put it as over h over 1. Flip that fraction and change it to a multiply. Things will cancel. You'll end up with your answer. All right, now let's look at the root. The root is weird because you wouldn't know to do this unless you've seen an example done before. So let me show you what I mean. Root x minus 5. I'm again just going to write it as x plus h minus 5, minus in the middle, and then root x minus 5, the normal equation, and it's all over h. All right, so that's still my start. Now, we don't like this part. And so basically you're going to have to imagine it like this. Imagine it said a minus b, and you wanted to times by the conjugate of this, which is a plus b. The reason you would want to do this is because it's kind of like a difference of squares when you FOIL it out. You'll have your a squared part, you'll have a plus ab and a minus ab that cancel, and then you'll have your minus b squared part. Look, this right here is the reason we're going to do this, because the plus ab and the minus ab will cancel. So just, I know it hasn't made much sense yet, just keep this in mind. This is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be multiplying by the conjugate of this. So it's going to look like this. The conjugate of this, if you imagine this is a and this is b, it would look like this. Root x plus h minus 5. Notice I did not change any of the signs inside the root. The only thing that's going to change is this minus here is going to become a plus. Then it's still root x minus 5. And you have to times by the top and the bottom that way. So over, repeat. Okay. Now, when you FOIL the top, the roots drop. So like this first part, the f of FOIL, this root times this root, just drop the root. It's going to become x plus h minus 5. All right, the o and the I of the FOIL, the outside and the inside, these guys cancel. They cancel each other out, so you don't even need to write them. Then you're going to have the L of the FOIL, which is this. The root drops away, so it's like minus. Now this minus, you have to have that parentheses again. Then it would be your x minus 5, like that. And then it's all over. I wouldn't change the bottom. I would just leave it as h times that binomial, that root x plus h minus 5 plus root x minus 5, like that. Okay, on top you will have to distribute this minus sign. So it's going to become x plus h minus 5 minus x plus 5 over that same thing. I still didn't touch that bottom really. Okay. Now, here's the part where stuff cancels. So this would be kind of a good place to check yourself. Like if you had, for example, hypothetically, if you had like a plus x and a minus 5 and you look and see that they're not going to cancel, then that's your cue. You did it wrong. And it's probably you did this part wrong, the minus parentheses. So keep that in mind. But this is your part where stuff will cancel. You'll end up with just h over h parentheses, that root plus root. And now you can cancel your h's. So my answer here is a 1 over that root plus root. I know, those are tricky. So go ahead and try the rest of the problems on this page, and I'll write the answers down. So yeah, that is difference quotient. I showed you an example of a linear, a quadratic, a rational, and a root. If you know those, you should probably be pretty good at this. So hope this video helped.